First of all, he's fit and he's not centre half wise.
Should write them down really, shouldn't I? So I don't forget any. Yeah, we've still got a few injuries. Ryan Shawcross not available. We're hoping, and we might get a couple back. Mark Wilson trained yesterday, first time for a while. So we're hoping he's not going to have a reaction. Same with John Walters and Stevie Ireland, they both trained as well. So we have to check them today and make sure that they're feeling okay. Eric Peters is trained for the most part of the week, so we're hopeful that he'll be available. So we'll get a few back. We'll probably miss one or two out, but I think that's, for the most part, that's where we are at the moment.
Are you happy enough going into this game against Villa that you've got a good enough side to put out against them competitively?
Oh yeah. I mean, we've had injuries other times. It's a period where we're going through at the moment. There's no rhyme or reason to it really. It's just most of it's coincidental. It's just all happening at the same time. Obviously, we've got injuries, we've got suspensions, we've got people out with long-term injuries as well. And it's all just coincided probably with last weekend. As I said, we're hopeful we're going to get a few back this weekend, so we'll be stronger than we were at the weekend.
Is this a hard game to go into? Because you could look at Villa's last 10 games and it would be nothing like that, will it, this weekend?
No, they've got a new manager, so inevitably there'll be something of a new manager bounce. That always seems to happen, but I think it's always the case of players when the new manager come in, they want to impress, so there's just that little edge to the game, there's a little increase in possibly work rate and focus, so we have to be aware of that. We're fully prepared for that. We don't expect anything different, so we'll have to be ready. It's not an easy game. Obviously, they had a good win last weekend, which obviously has lifted everybody. We've got a new manager in place. Tim's come in. He comes across as a very positive guy, so he'll be working on their positive thinking, I would imagine, in terms of getting a positive result out of the game against us. But we've been doing okay. We've had a couple poor results, which has set us back somewhat, but prior to that we were on a great run, so we just need to get back to the levels that we were prior to the last 2 games we played.
Everyone over there in the Claret Blue half of Birmingham, they're all buoyed by this positive, pretty excited about this weekend, about getting themselves out of the bottom three, and I don't know, you're just quietly sitting there, and I imagine you coming along as a big bubble burster.
Well, we have the potential to be. I wouldn't think Tim and his staff would take us lightly, because they know we're an accomplished side in the Premier League, and we've proven over a long period that we can cause problems for anybody. Last year, in the same fixture, we beat them 4-1. So different times, obviously, different personnel, different people involved, but we're still looking forward to it. It's always a good stage to go to. It's always a good atmosphere at Villa Park, and I've always enjoyed going in with my teams and as a player, so we're all looking forward to it.
Are you surprised to see them there in the bottom three? Because every couple of years one of these teams comes up that everyone says they're too big to go down or whatever. Is this one of those scenarios, you think?
Well, you look at the squad and individually, they're a good group of players in terms of what they can produce, but obviously for whatever reason they haven't been able to really have a consistent run of results that has enabled them to be solid in the Premier League. It just seems that for the last 2 or 3 years that they have struggled. It seems obviously when Paul was there, maybe the goalposts were removed somewhat, and he had to work under different constraints that maybe previous managers hadn't had imposed on them. So that can be difficult, but you still look at the group of players that they've got, and you think, well, that's a good Premiership squad. They possibly should be doing better than they are. I don't know the reasons why why they've struggled so much. It can be any number of things, but obviously this weekend there's a positive feeling around the place, and we'll have to be ready for that. But we'll see. It's a big club, big following, and it's a challenge for us. But we'll look forward to it because, as I said, we played really well against Man City for 50-60 minutes, and then went under. The weekend we were very poor, so we need to pick ourselves up. So it's a good place to start though.
After a great finish last season, where are you hoping? Can you match it, you think, this season?
Yeah, absolutely. We're near as we can be to be on track. Not a million miles away from the targets that we set ourselves at this stage of the season, up to 25 games. We've got opportunities coming out now. We've got fixtures. We feel we've got a real opportunity to pick up maximum points in. And if we do that, then we'll better last year's total, and that's a challenge for us. We haven't got obviously, unfortunately, we haven't got a distraction of the FA Cup now, so all our focus will be on our Premier League games. So that can help us, I'm sure.
Been a lot of horror stories coming out from the fans at the treatment last week at Blackburn. Do you have any recollection of this? And it just seemed to be some scuffling of these stewards and stuff.
At the time, I wasn't aware of it. Obviously, I was made aware of it, and obviously there's ongoing things at the moment, and people having discussions about it and seeing if things need to be highlighted. I haven't had an update in terms of where we are with that, but obviously I was made aware after the game. So obviously those conversations are ongoing, and once they've been concluded, then we'll have a better idea of what actually went on.
So the club, that's your understanding, that are investigating it, and some of the claims of the fans that they were treated.
I'm sure there will be those things happening. As I said, I haven't had an update in the last couple of days, so I'm not sure how far that's going to go. But I'm sure if anything needs to be done, the club and everybody involved will be a part of it.
Just finally, can I just ask you what you thought about Luis Figo's manifesto, if you like, yesterday, to FIFA about some of the changes with sin-bins and perhaps a less technical offside?
Well, it's all interesting stuff. It's a lot of it quite radical. Whether or not most of it was just sound bites, and it was put out there to grab people's attention, which is obviously giving these off the candidates to see. That's what he needs to do. He needs to raise his profile in world football at an administration level. So certainly got people talking, and I'm sure that was the reason he produced all those ideas that he had. Some were quite interesting, others I think maybe not really practical. But we'll see how he does. He's got a lot of support, a lot of celebrities backing him, a lot of previous, obviously high-profile footballers have aligned themselves up with him. Obviously his standing in the game as a footballer was without question, so we'll see how he does.
Did you have to give your players a kick up the backside this week, or how did you react to the defeat?
Well, we talked about it obviously after the game, and on Monday we had a poor performance. We're a team that on occasions we will have players that are not quite playing up the level that they need to, but as a collective group we can't afford more than 2 or 3 in any given game. Unfortunately we had a bit more than 1 or 2 playing poorly, and we can't afford to have that. In fairness, it's happened on very few occasions since I've come to the club, so that's credit to the players. And when it has happened, and when we have been a little bit below the levels we've set ourselves and standards we've set ourselves, then invariably we bounce quickly back and put it right. So I fully anticipate that's what will happen this time as well.
Did you call them in for an extra meeting, extra training, anything?
No, we talked about it on Monday, maybe went into it a little bit more at length than we possibly would have done after a normal weekend game. But then we draw a line under it and we move on to the next one. The key is to make sure that we improve on the day. The first half was a poor performance, but wasn't what we were looking for. we obviously got into a lead, so we should have been able to build on that. We didn't. We allowed them back into the game. So in fairness, we're looking to get to half time just to speak with them and sort a few things out which were causing us a problem. But unfortunately, about 2 or 3 minutes before the half concluded, we lose a man to a sending off, and we concede a penalty. So we're behind in the game. We've got 10 men and we're chasing the game in the second half. So circumstances were a little bit against us in that second half. Even so, our first half performance wasn't what we needed it to be. But we talked about it, we've discussed it, we know what we need to do better if we find ourselves in those circumstances again, so I don't anticipate it'll happen anytime soon.
So you expect a backlash effectively against Villa this weekend?
Well, I expect a better performance. We have been hampered, we've had to change things around in terms of personnel with a number of the injuries we've had, but I said to the guys, we can't hide behind that at the end of the day. The team that played really well against Man City for 50-60 minutes was the team that picked up the weekend, so really there shouldn't have been a discrepancy in terms of the level of performance that they produced. So they know that we need to be better next time out, and that's obviously Villa, and that's what we intend to do.
And just finally, Andy Wilkinson came back. We thought he'd long gone from the club. I suppose it just shows that you can never say never, really, can you?
Well, no, I mean Andy's part of the first team squad. He's back with us now, and if we need him, we know we can call on him. We had a little bit of an issue this week. Got a bang on his head, and been suffering from a little bit of migraine, which he's had before, in fact. So that's settled down, and he'll be available as well.
Mark, you mentioned Andy Wilkinson there, of course. With so many sort of injuries and suspensions at the moment, this is the time for the fringe players to get their opportunity in the first team.
Well, yeah, I think we need everybody to step up, and I think when you do get an opportunity, if you've been out of the team for any length of time, then when an opportunity presents itself, then you've got to do your best to obviously take it. And at the moment we're suffering somewhat with injuries in the defensive part of the game, probably ahead of the back four. We're still in pretty good shape. So the lads at the back, they can see that maybe there will be opportunities if we continue to lose players. Hopefully as I said, we'll gain a few back this weekend, and we'll be fine and it'll steady itself. But yeah, players have to keep themselves fit. They have to be constantly working on their levels to make sure that if they do get an opportunity, they can make an impact.
Are you confident that they can do the job?
Well, yeah, it's difficult sometimes when you've been out of the team for a long period of time. It's not easy to come straight back in and have that impact, but if you've looked after yourself and you've worked hard in training and you've put that extra work in which we put into the guys that don't play regular, then you've got a chance, to have an impact.
Mark, you often talk about getting that first goal in the Premier League and getting the goal early on. How important is it going to be to get that goal against Villa? Because obviously, like Pete said, the crowd are going to be buoyed, they're looking, for a win.
Well, it's a little bit different, obviously, with a new manager coming in, but it's not to any great extent, because an away game, the approach is always the same. It's basically you try and keep the home crowd a little bit quiet. If you can get your nose in front, then maybe spreads a little bit of anxiety into the opposition, and you can benefit from that. So the key is to make sure that you set the platform to win the game, and we've been able to do that in recent games, and that's what we'll try and do again. It's not an easy place to go under any circumstances, obviously, with the positivity around the place at the moment, then we'll have to deal with that as well. But as I said, we'll look forward to it. It's good ground to go to, and always good to get a positive result coming away from Villa Park. Okay, thank you.
Radio's preaching the mascot room.
Just got back from holiday.